Guys, I think we're overdue for a book haul. I just put out a video on Neuromancer. I'm reading slowly but surely through Lonesome Dove, but it's time to show you the stacks of books that I have right below the camera. Uh, and without further introduction, let's get right into it. I got some sick stuff to show you. Let's start with when I was down in Springfield visiting Luke. I stopped at an antique mall right out of town as I was leaving. They were closing at 6, and so I decided that I would just see if I could find anything. And I found an absolute treasure trove. Uh, most of these books, I don't think I spent more than $3 per book on any of these. Um, there's a lot of Ballantine adult fantasies. There's a couple of really cool DAWs that I've never seen before, at least in person. But yeah, let's get into it. This is called Something About Eve by James Branch Cable. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Beautiful Valentine adult fantasy. These covers are always just beautiful. They're usually illustrations with just really funky, you know, out of this world designs. I actually found 2 of these, so I'm pretty sure another one is somewhere in this stack. The exact same book. Here's another Valentine adult fantasy. This is The Silver Stallion by James Branch. I'm going to say Cable. Really should look that up to see if it's correct. Don't roast me in the comments, please, if it's not. Another gorgeous cover. Don't really know much about this, but yeah, it's in really good shape. A lot of these are. This is a tour double. James Tiptree Jr.'s Houston, Houston, Do You Read? And Joanna Russ's Souls. In, again, really good shape. This might get read, because this is like maybe an afternoon. I find an afternoon. Here's a really old bantam of Ray Bradbury's The Golden Apples of the Sun. This is not a common find, at least in this old-fashioned. These Bantam Giants. This is a Bantam Giant, 35 cents. I think I paid $1.50, so not that much more for a very good book. I'm sure. I haven't read this specific Bradbury, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was up there. This is an Olaf Stapledon called Odd John. From what I understand about this one, this is basically the proto-Superman story. So the very first Superman story that there ever was. Like on the cover, it literally says an SF classic, which is the first Superman story and still by all odds the best. Damon Knight said that. I actually have another copy of this somewhere else. I found probably a year ago or so, but this was like $3, and yeah, it's in pretty good shape. We'll probably read that at some point because I've never read Stapledon, but it feels like very foundational to the genre. This is Mistress of Mistresses, E.R. Edison. Many people kind of lump this in as sort of the Lord of the Rings-esque high fantasy that influenced Tolkien. Yeah, here it says the second volume in the fantasy classic most often compared with Tolkien, but I believe these were published a little bit earlier. Could be wrong about that. Let's give it a gander. Copyright 1935. This is a 1967 first printing on Ballantine, but 35, maybe a little bit after. Anyway, beautiful cover again. Looks like a Ballantine adult fantasy. Might as well be. This is a really, speaking of cool covers, Lord of Thunder, Andre Norton in the Chunky Ace. Really pretty book in great shape. I've yet to read Norton, but yeah, I probably should do my due diligence. This is a Ballantine fantasy. Might as well be an adult fantasy. I mean, look at this beautiful cover art. It doesn't say adult fantasy, and it doesn't have that little horse, unicorn, I should say, up at the top, but still. Merlin's Ring by H. Warner Munn, an introduction by Lynn Carter. So maybe it is a technical grandfathered in adult fantasy, a Valentine adult fantasy. Another one in great shape. This one booth at this antique mall had probably, I mean, just you could barely reach the top shelf. So a huge, tall shelf, and just 3 or 4 across, stacked like this. It was, I mean, it was just the whole thing. And I spotted just book after book. I was pulling it out, and I was just like, "This one's $2. This one's $1." Like it's one of those like heart racing moments when you're a collector, when you just find stuff that not only you can afford a lot of it, but you're finding a lot of good stuff that you've never really seen before, and it's not, you find it at a good price, way cheaper than it probably should be, and so therefore you're not like picking and choosing. Oh well, I'm only budgeting myself $50 to spend on books today. I can only afford 5 books or something. Like I think I spent like a total of maybe $80 in there, and I have a lot left. So that was just this one place. So a gold mine, a treasure trove. This is The Jewel in the Skull, a Lancer by Michael Moorcock. I've only read 2 Michael Moorcocks, both Elric novels. So eventually we'll see if I can get to the history of the rune staff, but cool stuff. I always look out for those if I can. Hannes Bach, Beyond the Golden Stair, Valentine adult fantasy that is just beautiful. The spider, flamingo. I mean, these covers, man, they're just outrageous. They're beautiful. Gervasio Gallardo. Yeah, that's who did the cover art. Other than a reading crease and some kind of chips up here, up at the top, it's in decent shape. Nebula Award Stories 9, edited by Kate Wilhelm. This has Tiptree, Gene Wolfe, George R. R. Martin, Harlan Ellison, Norman Spinrad, and a few others. Tight, in really good shape. Not really a cover to write home about, but I love anthologies, especially, just these. I'm guessing this was maybe late 80s, 78. I was a little bit off. A little bit premature there. Getting better at my sci-fi history. This is Shadrach in the Furnace by the great Robert Silverberg, one of my favorite science fiction authors. Pocket. I think this is it's a pocket edition. Not in great shape, but I don't think I had this Silverberg previously, and I have a lot of Silverberg because he was very prolific. Oh, we have quite a few more in this stack. I probably should speed up a little bit. I say that every time, and then when I watch other book hauls, I don't mind when they go for a long time. I mean, Bookpilled, Matt over Bookpilled just I haven't watched the full thing yet, but it's a 4-hour video, I think, of an unpacking of an entire collection, and I just kind of have it on. It's very soothing, but so I hope you like a long drawn out video, because I think that's what this is going to turn out to be, because I'm just going to talk about this stuff and show off these cool covers. Here's some really cool ones. Speaking of, this is Blood County by Kurt Selby, Dawn number 436. One that I have not seen before in real life. First printing, 1981. Definitely a horror. So pretty gnarly cover there. Blood County. Feels vampire-esque. I say that obviously as just the blood part of it. Gave me that. Here's one that it jumped off the shelf, as you can imagine. The Yellow Spine. Tanith Lee's Death's Master in nearly mint daw. Like, it's got a little bit of wear, but like, this thing it's freaking, like I saw this on the shelf and just audibly gasped, because this is not a common book. First printing, 1979. Just a gorgeous Tanith Lee. She is awesome. Um, this is just shameless plug to read her stuff. Have yet to read any of the Flat Earth, but of the few novels I've read, Electric Forest, um, Don't Bite the Sun. Have I read any other ones? I think I've read some short stories of hers. She's just tremendous. Couldn't say enough good things. Here's another one that jumped off of the shelf to me. Count Zero, in the Vintage Ace by William Gibson. Plug in again. I'll plug the Neuromancer video I just did. Just released a couple days ago. I reread Neuromancer after probably 9 months, maybe a full year after I had read it the first time. Really didn't know what to think of it the first time. Adored it, loved it, couldn't stop thinking about it the second time. Still can't stop thinking about it, and I can't wait to read more of Gibson. He's phenomenal. Cyberpunk has really taken a hold on me. So I'm starting to pick up things from like, is it Walter John Williams, K.W. Jeter, Rudy Rucker, some of those kind of names, Louis Shiner, some other cyberpunk names that I'm like, I'm gonna sink my teeth into these at some point. But yeah, this is a Valentine adult fantasy that I truly like. I've never seen it, I'd never heard of it, and online or in person, this is a beautiful copy of The Blue Star by Fletcher Pratt. I mean, what is this? Someone tell me, because I like this physical copy is just like calling my name. The tale of a parallel world. I might have to read this. I mean, this just is, it's just calling my name. Just an unbelievable copy. I think that this was literally $2. Like, you can't make it up. You just can't make it up. Little City Ace that I have seen several times now, but have had it recommended and have still not read Simic. That's kind of feels weird. I have quite a bit of him now, and that one especially I've heard quite a bit of praise for. Oh, you've already seen this? I kicked the video off with this one. Another Something About Eve in the Valentine adult fantasy, The Bath. I want to take a bath. Night Walk by Bob Shaw. A really old Banner book. Not in great shape, but first Banner printing 1967. This might be a first edition or first print or what, you know. Still kind of figuring in those terms out, because I've learned how to read a numbered line, or that the printing line that has the, you know, editions that it is, or printings that it is, excuse me. But I've still yet to kind of figure out what constitutes a first edition, first printing. It's a little bit muddy for me, so I apologize, but I try to get it as close as I can. I'm doing my best to learn. But yeah, cool edition of Night Walk by Bob Shaw. James Branch Cable, Something About Eve, a different edition. I found at the exact same Relic store. Relics is the name of it, Antique Mall, as all of these, and it was just in a different booth. This one is a Del Rey, a more modern Del Rey, but a really pretty cover. It's really cool. Look at the back there. I don't really know much about this book, but I've got 3 copies of it now all of a sudden. This is a big, you can listen to this. A thick boy with 2 C's. SF, The Year's Greatest, second annual volume. Yep, Judith Merril. A lot of these early ones are Judith Merril. It's got Asimov, Ballard. I'm just not even gonna. You can, if you want to look, you can pause it on this screen maybe. A lot of good stories in this, I'm sure. I picked this up simply because I recognized the name, but then afterwards I realized that it's kind of a rare book. Gary Gygax, Come Endless Darkness Gord. It's a Gord the Rogue book. He's the co-creator of Dungeons and Dragons. I came to know after I got the book. I grabbed it off the shelf and went, "Oh, it's $3. I think this is probably one I should pick up." It's a first printing in 1988 from Ace Fantasy. Yeah, cool book. I don't know anything about it, but educate me, if you will. If you know anything about Gary Gygax, it's a sick name. It sounds like a pen name. Land of Unreason, another Valentine adult fantasy. This one by Fletcher Pratt and L. Sprague de Camp. Another just outrageous cover. I just love these. I probably have quite a few of them now after this this book haul. It's called Spawn of the Winds by Brian Lumley. It says it's in the tradition of Lovecraft. So if it's anything like that, if I ever read this, I'm gonna like it. I think really come to like Lovecraft. First Jove, 1978. Jove. Fantasy. Cool. All right, that's... Oh, no, I have one more stack. Good gosh. This I picked up... So I visited Luke several weekends back. We went to a comedy show. I met his girlfriend. We had a great weekend hanging out. And then this past weekend, we were passing through Springfield on that guy's trip that I filmed my Neuromancer video on. I was dropping Luke off in Springfield, and I was like, a couple hours to kill until I had to be back in town up here. And so I stopped back at the Relics Antique Mall, and that's where I got this stack. So I went right back to that booth and found several more. He had restocked a little bit, and maybe I had missed some. So for, again, like $2.50. These were the stickers on them. They were like between $1 and $3, and yeah, this is Vor, the Maelstrom, Into the Maelstrom by Lauren N. Coleman. It feels like it's, I don't know. It feels unique and it doesn't feel common. I looked it up and it's like Vor caught my eye because it's a first printing. Vor is the name of a James Blish book, and this whole time I had been thinking of the Vang because it gives off that kind of like late 90s battle tech, vibe. Anyway, I don't know anything about this book, but I picked it up nonetheless. If you know about it, tell me. Here's a Valentine adult fantasy, The World's Desire by H. Rider Haggard and Andrew Lang. I mean, what is happening on this cover? An unreal cover. Truly. Real quick, since I'm like this far in, I have recorded a couple of book hauls before where stuff will like go wrong in the middle of the video. I'm going to make sure that we're still recording. Okay. I think we've been going for a little bit, and I have a lot to go, so I may have to actually speed up just a hair. This is another one of those tour doubles. This is Greg Bear's Hard Fought and Timothy Zahn's Cascade Point. Apparently this was a Nebula Award winner. Yeah, and this was a Hugo winner? Or are they just saying Timothy Zahn's a Hugo winner? Probably. Have read one Greg Bear, Blood Music, great book. Ballantine Fantasy. This looks like a Ballantine adult fantasy. Another grandfathered one that I feel like came before the line actually came out, potentially. The Island of the Mighty by Evangeline Walton. Formerly The Virgin and the Swine. The fourth branch of the... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Yeah, I was about to try it, and I was like, adventure stories from an old Welsh mythology, dramatically retold. This is just exactly what Valentine adult fantasies are meant to be. Just gorgeous. Books are awesome. Can you guess a Valentine adult fantasy? This one is The Water of the Wondrous Isles by William Morris. Have I said it once? If I say it, I'll say it 1,000 times. Stunning covers. I mean, my gosh. C.S. Lewis says on the back, my whole bent was towards the watercolor world of William Morris. I had met him first in quotations in books on Norse mythology. After that, I read all the Morris I could get. As someone who loves C.S. Lewis, I might have to read some William Morris. Good old-fashioned William Morris. This is Charles Eric Maine's Beast. It looked very unique and interesting. This is a Valentine biological evolutionary animal simulation test. Beast. And cool cover. No one could control the computer-created monster. Never seen this one. Don't know who Charles Eric Maine is, but I want to be educated, so tell me about that one if you know. Here's a tiny ace. This has 126 pages. Henry Kuttner's The Dark World. I mean, look at that thing. A novella. And a pretty one at that. And finally, the last part of this part of the haul. Done with the Relic haul, the Relics Antique Mall haul. Fritz Leiber's The Green Millennium in this really pretty ace. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Let's keep moving. On the guy's trip, Luke and I, of course, found a thrift shop and a bookstore. And I found a few things. Luke found a couple of Civil War novels, and I found vintage sci-fi. A.E. Van Vogel's The World of Null A. I think, again, all these were $1 or $2 in some back room that we found that had a lot of... these are pretty beat up, some of these are, but some of them are pretty cool finds. Envoy to New Worlds, Keith Lummer. I think this looks like the first Retief book. It's kind of cool. I've seen mention of that before, and it's a pretty early ace, so neato. Rulers of Men in the Pyramid. This has Block, Clark, DeCamp, Harrison, Leiber. Probably a few more. It's like, ooh, Miriam Ellen DeFord. I really liked her story that I read in Dangerous Visions. That's pretty much all the names I know. A few others that are kind of ancillary, but China Mountain Jang, Maureen F. McHugh. I believe this is a ex-library. Yes, it is. Lindstrom. Thanks for writing on it in Sharpie, Lindstrom. A book I've seen mentioned before. I think Bookpill mentioned this book at one time or another, and I always kind of kept it in the back of my mind. I've never seen it in person. Hawksbill Station, Silverberg, Avon. I really like these old, the colors that they chose for a lot of the old Avons in this style are just a lot of muted, like the black backgrounds that they have is muted, but then really makes that the like neon kind of colors that they use pop. And plus they used a lot of red text blocks back then. I like it. I already have a copy of this, but I think it was 75 cents. It was sold for $7.50 on Highway 62 Antiques, but I got it for $1. I caught you $1. It says Slan by Van Vogt. No, I was watching a video about something the other day. Van Vogt? Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Someone was correcting somebody else. It was Van Vogt. I'm going to try my best to pronounce it correctly. I believe it's pronounced Van Vogt. The Worlds of A.E. Van Vogt. Really pretty in the ace. Pretty good shape, too. Silverberg's The World Inside. I have a beautiful book club edition of this that I read and covered on the channel. Awesome book. Awesome book. Would recommend. Really, really good. And then here's a modern one that many of you might have heard a mention of. This was like $3, I think. So it's a pretty I mean, pretty talked about book that I really don't know anything about, but I've seen it mentioned. There is no anti-memetics division by Quantum. I'm not sure if this is something I'm ever going to read or be interested in. Doesn't really seem up my alley, but I mean, it's literally in flawless brand new shape, and it costs $29. So to get it for three, it's either going to go on my shelf or be sold at some point. If I could ever bring myself to do an auction or list something on eBay, because I'm swimming in books. All right, I'm going to quickly go through this stack of thrifts and antique finds that Luke and I had. Some of these I found on my own, some of these I found with Luke. Starship, Reinaldus. This one's cool. I found this one at the local thrift shop. I thought I struck out, and this is the only thing I found, and I realized it is very uncommon and worth a decent amount of money. I know, like, I'll push pause really quick and try not to spend too much time on this, but I know sometimes a lot of when I do my book hauls, I talk about how much I paid for them because I'm always looking for deals and stuff. And most of the time, these are thrifts or these are, library sale finds and stuff like that. But I think there's something to be said about like trying to educate yourself in the genre, go out and find cool things, and keep books like this, that would normally be just passed over by anybody alive. And not that I'm trying to like make a bunch of money on it, but it's just cool to find books that are more uncommon and therefore cost a decent amount. Because like I'm not gonna pay $50 for this book. That's just not me personally. But I'm also not maybe the person who wants to go out and find this. And so I just think it's neat. It's not a financial endeavor is what I'm trying to get at. I have a passion for this stuff. So I don't want you to ever think that, the viewers who watch these videos, that you guys, I don't want you ever to think that I'm doing this to like, I mean, seriously, I've never resold a book still. And I've been collecting these for over a year or two now. And I just think it's cool when you find something that you're like, oh, like that's really hard to find. And that's, it's just neat. So anyway, this is the the Battle Master, which I think is the third book in this kind of trilogy. The first one is called Star Hammer, I think, and then the Vang, which a lot of people have kind of heard of. There's kind of a connection between that and Halo, I believe. And then you have this kind of obscure one that, yeah, looks wild. So that was a cool find. PJF's Hadon of Ancient Opar in Tarzan's Africa 12,000 years ago. Dawn number 100. Pretty cool. Pretty wavy as well. First printing. Nice. Ron Goulard's Space Hawk Incorporated. Just, Goulard had some sick DAW covers. I tell you what. I don't know what's happening here, but I think it's cool. It's a giant, like, scaly uh, King Kong or something carrying elephants. Wild. City of the Chosh, Planet of Adventure by Jack Vance. Planet of Adventure number 1 in this bright pink case. I think I have it in DAW. The Ragged Astronauts by Bob Shaw. I've heard a decent amount of people have mentioned when Bob Shaw's name comes up that this is one of the ones to read. Looks interesting. This is a Bane. Isildur's Bane. First paperback, 1988. Cool. Copyright 1986. So maybe this is. Yeah. Cool. Elfstones of Shannara. Won't spend any time on that. Everybody knows Terry Brooks. Find his stuff all the time. The Ill Earth War by Stephen R. Donaldson. Heavy and thick. Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever, Book 2. I don't know anything about it. I think I found that for like 50 cents. Lawrence Jennifer's Impossible. Some short stories by Jennifer in like the red and blue 3D glasses font. Jennifer's the one who wrote Blood World, that I am very interested to read at some point. Masters of Horror, edited by Alden H. Norton. This has some really good names in it: Bram Stoker, Ray Bradbury, A. Merritt, Henry Kuttner. Yeah, Mary Shelley, I think, is in there. At least what it said. Here's a BCE of the three Hainish novels. I brought up Book Pill a few times in this video, but he recently did a great video explaining these. We have first Rocannon's World, then Planet of Exile, and then City of Illusions. I've read 2 Le Guins, right? 2 Dispossessed, yeah, and the word for world is forest. She's wonderful, and these look really cool. Plus, I mean, it's got just a bright, like peachy orange, pink. Just a beautiful book. This is a biography of J.R.R. Tolkien, Humphrey Carpenter. I collect everything Tolkien that I find, so if it finds me, then it finds my shelf. Gregory Benford's The Martian Race. This was 50 cents. And it is a first Warner Books printing. Big old tome of the Clash of Kings. We all know good old George. But it's a first. It's a first. Yeah. Pretty cool. It's not in the best of shape, but it's a hardcover, and it cost me $1. So $1 or $2, I think. And then we also have A Feast for Crows. I believe this is also a first. Found these at 2 separate shops, like I think it was the same day, maybe. Thrifting. Pretty weak cover, but still a cool find. Here's a Gallant's edition of The Wanderer by Fritz Leiber. You don't really find many of these UK looking ones. I think this was a UK one. Yeah, because the pages are just way better. Printed in Great Britain by the Guernsey Press. Guernsey. Man, the pages just feel so much more satisfying. Cool. I thrifted that for $1 or $2. Poul Anderson's For Love and Glory. Another thrift find. I think this is a first. It is. March 2003. Poul Anderson. All right. I have quite a few more to go through, so if you're still with me, you're the best. My mic still has charge. Are we still recording? Oh no, a couple books fell. We're 33 minutes in. Holy moly. I hope my phone has enough storage. If you're still watching, truly, thank you. You're the best. You're the reason I do these things. I'd read all this stuff no matter what, but it's a lot more fun to share this with you guys, especially the collecting stuff. You know, the reviews are really fun, and I think the heart and soul of what I'm doing, because otherwise, you know, collecting's cool, but what if the books just sit here and don't get read, then there's not really a point. Not much of a point, I should say. But yeah, these kind of engaging videos where I can sit here and kind of learn on the fly and talk with you guys, and then hear about books that like the Gary Gygax one. Like, I'm sure if one of you guys happens to be a Dungeons and Dragons fan, you'll tell me more about the stuff I don't know about that, because, like, you know, it's the passing of information in this little community that we have. It's really fun. So anyway, I'll continue. This was all from a library sale. I'm almost positive everything that I have stacked here looks like it was from. This was all from a library sale. So I have one that was a real cool surprise, and then I have several others that are pretty sweet books. But the library sale had paperbacks at 50 cents and hardbacks at $1 each. So most of these are paperbacks, and I paid the lady like $18 for this whole stack, and I was just like, it feels like stealing when you go to library sales. you're paying for what they charge you, but it truly feels like stealing sometimes when you find books where you're like, that was worth that one book that I found was worth the whole stack that I just bought. Like it's go support your local library sale. It, if you have them around you, they're awesome. They help your library, and there's awesome books that get donated. And however they make them their way to the library sale, they you will find some if you go to them. So the few that I have in town that I go to, I try to go to regularly, and I go to very first thing when they open. And you can find some really cool stuff for just pennies. This is called Whispers, edited by Stuart David Schiff. This has a Fritz Leiber in it. Let's see what else is in here. David Drake, Fritz Leiber, Carl Wagner, Robert Bloch, Brian Lumley. I don't know a lot of the names in here. Cool. Still a neat cover. Oh my gosh, we're getting all sorts of stacks over here. Lee Brackett's The Long Tomorrow in the Del Rey, the newer Del Rey. I have an old, I'm not going to remember the publisher. I have a very old one. I want to say Ace, but I don't think that's right. And then this one has like it's like these cool textured hexagons on there. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to try to catch the light a little bit. If not, I'm just going to wave this book stupidly in front of the camera. This thing almost, this side of the book, you can see like it almost was like printed over the top. Like it almost like a misprint or something. But yeah, anyway. Leah Brackett. This is the early Asimov book 2. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. That thing's beat up. Has an ugly cover. We all know Asimov. We all know Asimov. Speaking of that cyberpunk I was telling you about earlier that I'm starting to get pretty interested in. This is Cyber Stealth by S.N. Lewitt. Sorry. We just watched Revenge of the Sith on the guys' weekend that I was on, and we were just memeing the whole time. Do it. Okay, this one's cool. I picked up this George R. R. Martin just kind of by chance. I don't usually pick up all of Martin's stuff because his science fiction is, I've heard mixed things about it, but this was in absolutely flawless condition. You can see there's just no marks on it, no scuffing, no nothing. And I was just like, nice. For 50 cents, why not? I got home and I was going through the books and I was just kind of flipping through, and it's signed by George. To Bob, happy voyaging. So that made it really cool, especially at a library sale. There were other George R. R. Martin books that I left there. I already had like a full bag, and so I was kind of pissed that I was like, dang, I wish I could drive back out and go get the rest of them. But maybe other ones are signed. But yeah, I now have a George R. R. Martin signed Tough Voyaging. So that was really fun to discover. This is a K.W. Jeter, another cyberpunk name that I'm not really super familiar with, but this looks really cool. I love this cover. The Glass Hammer. What really piqued me about this one, because I just was like, oh, the cover looks cool, and he's like, it looks like cyberpunk racing or something. The back it says, imagine a book that combines the nerveless resignation of J.G. Ballard, the unremitting paranoia of Strugatsky, and the manic inventiveness of the late Philip K. Dick. And you will have some idea of the tone of this book. Like, count me in. That sounds freaking awesome. This is a third Tor double. John M. Ford's Fugue State and Gene Wolfe, The Death of Dr. Island, author of the Book of the New Sun, that I am just dying to read. Part of the reason why I haven't started it in full, I've actually read Shadow of the Torturer, and I just didn't really get it. And so I'm planning on doing my Neuromancer treatment, just rereading it and just kind of starting from scratch again, acting like I didn't read it, having a little bit of prior knowledge, and then going into it again. But I want to dedicate like time and attention to it when I'm not reading Lonesome Dove and I'm not working on like collabs with anybody. And so this month, I've been reading a bunch of other stuff, not able to focus my attention. But at some point, I will be reading Book of the New Sun and covering it on the channel. So if you're interested in that, keep a lookout. This is a really nice copy of Norstrilia by Corwin Smith. I have covered this on the channel, and it is rock and roll awesome. Read this book. Do it. Do it. Sorry, it's kind of late. Getting kind of weird. Inherit the Stars, James P. Hogan. Book's like worth like 15, 20 bucks, I think. That was kind of cool. All right, let's keep going. Here's 3 George Alec Effingers, all in the Bantam Spectra. When Gravity Falls, The Exile Kiss, and A Fire in the Sun. I've not read George Alec Effinger, but he's apparently a Hugo and Nebula Award winner. So, I mean, great. It says great entertainment places Effinger in the company of writers like Gibson. If they're talking about William Gibson, which I'm almost positive they are, this looks very cyberpunk-esque. This, I might have to keep these. Read them. We'll see. Kate Wilhelm's Juniper Time. I have this book, this exact book. She will be read at some point. Case and the Dreamer by Sturgeon. I just did a video on More Than Human by Theodore Sturgeon, and I loved it. I was a little bit confused by some of it, but I loved what I understood, and the writing was very strong. The prose were very strong. John T. Philippant's King of Argent, a cover that reminds me of Doom, the video game. Adam Corby's The Divine Queen in the Timescape. Cool wraparound art. I have another Adam Corby somewhere. It's probably related. Nebula Award Stories 11. This one edited by Le Guin. This has Zelazny, Tom Reamy, Fritz Leiber, Haldeman, Harlan Ellison. Just like that other one I showed earlier. I'll check to see if I'm still recording. Okay. I always worry that my phone's going to fill up with space on these videos. Some more from the library sale. Here we go. Continuum 2. This has PJF, Paul Anderson, Chad Oliver, Anne McCaffrey, Edgar Pangborn, Thomas Scorsha, Gene Wolfe, and Gail Kimberly. Michael Moorcock's The Weird of the White Wolf. I think this is the next Elric book I need to read. Yeah, 3rd novel of Elric of Melniboné. Walter John Williams, Voice of the Whirlwind. Not read Walter John Williams, but another one of those cyberpunk names that I've been keeping an eye on. It's cool. All right, we're coming to the end here in a little bit. I have one stack of whatnot things to show you that are specific and pretty freaking cool. This is C.S. Lewis's That Hideous Strength. And is this a corgi? Don't know. It says Macmillan, but it looks like the corgi symbol. Collier, not corgi. I love the Space Trilogy. I love it. Really clean Delirium's Mistress by Miss Tanith Lee. And just a stunning cover. I mean, I hope you can see that. Michael Whelan. I mean, if there's a theme in this book haul, it is gorgeous art. Might make that the title. Here's a quest star. Can you hear that? Heavy quest star of the Summer Queen. I believe this is the sequel. Yep, a sequel to the Hugo Award-winning novel The Snow Queen. John D. Vinci. And then here are the hardcovers that I found at the library sale. Here is a beat up Electric Forest by Tanith Lee with no dust jacket. A first edition of Phantoms by Dean Koontz. There's good old Dean. Gotta be careful here. I'll stack them over there. This is book club. Yep, book club edition of The Vision by Dean Koontz. This is Red Moon and Black Mountain by Joy Chant in the book club. Book club edition. I think she made an appearance in the last book haul. This one is also Joy Chant, The Gray Mane of Morning. This one, I'm really interested if anybody knows anything about this specific edition. I don't know much about Joy Chant, but this is a UK from 1977, printed in Great Britain. George Allen and Unwin Publishers. Just a gorgeous book, and it's in pretty dang good condition. I mean, it's near flawless. Yeah, $1. Can you believe that? And then lastly, from the library sale, Octavia Butler's Wild Seed. Book I do not own, and I'm glad I do own it now. There's Octavia. Science Fiction Book Club's 50th anniversary collection. Awesome. All right. Now, we're down to the last bit. As you know, I am a Lord of the Rings collector, and so I was at a Whatnot auction, and I splurged a little bit and got early revised editions of the 3 Lord of the Rings books that are pretty well kept. I'm hoping that you can see them despite the glare, but this is a second edition, 5th printing from 1965. So pretty hard to find these, especially for a decent price and in good condition too. Revised edition. This is Two Towers. This is second. Oh, come on. Second edition, 4th printing. Just stunning. Return of the King. Lastly, 6th printing, also 2nd edition. These are the crown jewel of my collection now. That and the collector's edition that I have of the whole entire 1 volume. And then in that same auction, I also got Robots and Empire. This is signed by Brian J. Llewellyn. 1st edition. Nice. I didn't remember I got the 1st edition, but then I got a super beat up copy of Dune to complete my little Berkeley set that I have that are all readers that will be covered this year on the channel, I think, because the movie's probably coming out later in the year. It would be fun to kind of read those again alongside the movies coming out. Shout out to Heroin Bob. I got her copy of The Man in the High Castle by PKD. Really gnarly cover there. And then shout out Sci-Fi PBS, Sci-Fi Paperbacks. For these 3, Cordwainer Smith's Quest of the 3 Worlds, and the Ace. He always does a great job with shipping, wrapping these in the sleeves with little bookmarks. The Book of Brian Aldiss and the Clean Dawn, book Dawn number 29. Louis Shiner's Deserted Cities of the Heart really called my name. No idea what it is. Beautiful book. And lastly, there are two more books. We have another PKD. This is Ubik in the Bantam from somebody on Whatnot. I can't remember where I bought this from. Filbert, maybe? It rings a bell. A Whatnot seller named Filbert. Sorry, I buy from a lot of Whatnot's auctions if I get on a roll. And finally, one of my favorite books of all time, in the Collier, an old Collier that I'd never seen before, Paralandra by C.S. Lewis, the second book in the Space Trilogy that if you haven't read, would highly recommend, especially if you're a Christian. These books hit home especially hard for me as a believer, but pretty cool cover. Anyway, am I still recording? Okay. We made it. Guys, we made it to the end of the video. Oh my gosh. My phone had enough storage. My mic was charged. I showed you all the books that have just been sitting, stacking all over next to me. And we did it. Now I can finally shelve these books. I'm hopefully going to do a Whatnot auction at some point. Maybe list some of this stuff on eBay. We'll see. Whatnot auctions seem like they would be a lot more fun, but I just haven't gotten the logistics part of it, the shipping part of it, the time part of it. But I just need to just do it, you know? Just do it. I apologize. I'm really in a mood tonight, but I've spent an hour talking about books and showing you all these books, and I'm so glad that the video hopefully has saved. I don't want to speak before, I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, if you will. But there was a couple times that I've stopped the video after recording like 30 minutes, and I'll like listen back to the video just to make sure it's all good. No audio, but little light on my mic is working, and still says it's filming. I'm just blabbering at this point. I apologize. Keep an eye out on March 28th for Elusive Exclusive Book Society with the three fellas. Let's see. Jake from Pulp Mortem. I'm going to forget their first names, and I apologize. Secret Fire Books and the Book Graveyard. Is it I want to say Tim. Golly, I'm sorry, guys. I will meet you on March 28th on the stream, and we're going to talk about this here Jack Chalker book, and The Devil Will Drag You Under by Jack Chalker. Should be a fun time. Hopefully going to bring a couple of beverages, adult beverages, to said stream. But tune in 6 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, the link should be on my channel somewhere on like a post I just made, and then I'll share it when the time comes. But that's coming. And then I mentioned it on my last video, but Sam and I, Sam over at Barely Human, shout out to you, Sam, are reading This Immortal by Roger Zelazny. I'm a little over halfway through, making my way through it slowly, making my way downtown. I need to go to bed. But yeah, me and Sam are going to be recording that same day. I don't know when our video will come out and how we're going to do things, but yeah, he and I are going to chat about that book. And then at some point, Luke and I will put another video out about the books we've been reading, because we've read since like summer of last year, fall of last year, we've read The Godfather, Dracula, Frankenstein, A Farewell to Arms, and maybe one more. I can't really see right now. Anyway, and I'm reading Lonesome Dove now. Luke's almost to Lonesome Dove too. So we've done quite a bit of reading, and we've yet to publish a video. We may not. We may just read and talk about these books for fun, because we're kind of going through some classics. But anyway, I need to shut the video off. I'm tired, and you've seen all that I'm showing. So appreciate you so much. If you've made it this far, you are a top 1%. Love you so much. You're the best. And truly, I can't thank you enough for engaging with me on these videos and watching with them. I've been Dad Like Book. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself. come on.